Hi everyone, welcome to this presentation on the importance of bilingualism in the early years, preserving Inuktitut. My name is Appolina Makkigak. This is a PME 896 Capstone project for Queen's University. And my instructor is Danielle. The picture here behind the title is my grade 1 Inuktitut classroom back in 2023-2024. Let's get started. For this project, the target audiences are as follows. In the professional educational field, the target audiences could be found in conferences, such as the Inuit Studies, which is located on this link for Indigenous educators, a professional journal in the education field, and in person, such as school boards, parents, and teachers. Why learn a language in the early years? Marcos states that it is proven that a child who learns another language in the early years speaks the language learned like a native later in life. I also found this information worthy of sharing. A number of experts attribute the proficiency to physiological changes that occur in the maturing brain as a child enters puberty. The advantages that bilinguals demonstrate during such tasks include cognitive abilities related to attention, inhibition, monitoring, and switching focus of attention. Collectively, these cognitive skills comprise executive control processes that are located in the frontal lobe regions of the brain. Therefore, learning a language in the early years is very important for a child so that later in life it'll be easier for them. These children will have an extra set of skills that monolingual students do not have access to, and overall it's very beneficial for a child to be learning another language or more than one other language. As an Indigenous myself, I found it intriguing to find something to do my capstone project on that related to myself and the people that I work with and around. So this slide shows us the importance of preserving a native language for me, which is Inuktitut. From the government of Nunavut in 2008, they stated that Inuit language as a cultural inheritance and ongoing expression of Inuit identity both in Nunavut communities and in the wider circumpolar world is something to celebrate and be worthy of saving. This was taken from the Language Act that you will find later in the references. Pedagogical practices in Indigenous languages. This was a course that I took in Queens, which was GDE 820 Indigenous Leadership. This very much put into perspective why it's important to learn and save languages and preserve them. And I found that this course was very beneficial for this subject area. In the course GDE 820, student-led approaches in Indigenous education have an impact on Indigenous success, meaning that Indigenous helping Indigenous is beneficial for Indigenous. Also, if you would like to see this presentation from the previous course, please scan the QR code that you see to the video presentation on pedagogical practices in Indigenous education that I created when I took the course GDE 820. You can find the QR code here at the bottom right corner. It's a bit of a long video, heads up, but I believe it's worth it. I did a lot of work on it and I encourage you to see it. Why should we keep Inuktitut? The graph here shows how many Inuit there were in 2016. This was the most current statistics that I could find during my research. 30,140 Inuit of a total population of 35,580 gives you 85% Inuit who lived in Nunavut back in 2016. In my experience, not many Inuit children speak Inuktitut today, where I'm from especially. This is concerning for me, so I am finding ways and finding tools to help keep Inuktitut strong and alive, seeing as how 85% of the population in 2016 were Inuit. Carrying on with graphs, schools in Nunavut and in Canada. In this first graph, you could see at the end that in Nunavut back in 2016-17 and also which is also 2019 and to 2020, but Nunavut does not have the statistics here. Just below 50% of the population of graduation rates belong to Nunavut, meaning just under 50% of Nunavut people from Nunavut graduated high school back in 2016-17. In this second graph here shows us how much of a percentage Inuit were exposed to Inuktitut teachers, which is shown on the first column. The middle column there with the numbers show us how many Inuit were taught the Inuit language in the last year of elementary school or in high school. And the last column here shows us the percentages of Inuit teacher taught in Inuit language in the last year of elementary or in high school. You can see here that it ranges around the 50% to 60% percentage. To me, it shows that there's some connection here to the number of high school graduates, to how much exposure there were to students with the Inuktitut language and Inuktitut teachers. And it made me wonder if this connection was real or perhaps it was a coincidence. During my research, during the capstone here, the professional and personal experiences aspects are as follows. For Queen's Indigenous Language Teaching GDE PME 822, this course has taught me about teaching methods to teach languages. I found this course very useful for me. I used a lot of what I learned in this course in my grade 1 Inuktitut classroom and figured out that the audio, lingual, and communicative language learning to be my top picks for teaching methods. However, when I did both of them, they had major differences. There's a QR code here if you would like to see my presentation focusing on the audio, lingual, communicative language learning. The differences that were seen during my research in this course. A little about it, the audio lingual teaching method I found mainly me as the teacher talking and teaching and having the students watch and listen until I ask them to answer a question. This teaching method was very quiet in the classroom with a lot of teacher talking. I found it useful for those days where students seem to just want to settle down a little, maybe, but that was not always the case. And I found that the communicative language learning was a better choice, as this was more interactive with the students and the students seemed to be more engaged. They didn't have to sit still for as long of a period as they did with the audiolingual teaching method. As you can see, the QR code there is for you if you would like to see that presentation as well. It is also a YouTube video. Personally, I was taught Inuktitut first as a child. I did not learn English or know any sentences until I was in grade 3, which I'm very grateful for. I understand the claims made by scientists during my research on this Capstone project and scholars when they address the benefits of learning more than one language as a child. I feel like I was able to see the differences in language structure, phonics, without even realizing how much I knew as a child. It was very easy to pick up the English language because it was all around me, and I was starting to finally understand what everyone was talking about around me. And I was fortunate enough to have kept both languages. So I am confident to say I am a bilingual Indigenous teacher today. Furthering my capstone project, my future professional practices will include me being a school teacher. As a school teacher, I would like to further investigate teaching methods such as those that were mentioned in the previous slide, so that I have more in my quote belt to use as tools for intervention when needed. I feel like the more we know, perhaps is better, and also I want to know what works better and which doesn't work as well, just to have that practice on my end to help the students learn Inuktitut. And also, I want to start early on oral language development in the classroom instead of solely focusing on paperwork. Nowadays, I feel like we are more flexible with teaching different ways, so I think this is a possible opportunity for oral language development in the Inuktitut classroom. Future professional research. After taking this course, I have made some goals, which include to further investigate teaching methods by watching videos and reading trustworthy journals and articles. I have taken other courses in Queens that have opened my mind to ensure that the information that I am learning from is legitimate, and I am grateful to be able to realize more than what met the eye prior to taking the online courses with Queens. I also would like to find places to start an online professional journal or an in-person journal that shows what I have tried and done in my classroom to help other Inuit teachers perhaps try what I have tried in the past, or if they see that maybe it didn't work and maybe it won't work for them, something, because I feel like there is little to no support for Indigenous, especially Inuit teachers in the professional field, especially in journals and examples. There are some great teachers all across Nunavut, however, we're widely spread apart, so it's a little difficult to learn from one another on the daily basis, especially when we need it. Therefore, I think going online or starting a blog would be beneficial to share information. Also, I would like to engage in professional conferences as an attendee or a presenter, such as the Inuit Studies Conference. I have heard of colleagues going to such said conference in Winnipeg in the past. I have never really heard or learned about these conferences until I heard it from in person from my colleagues, and I find it intriguing. It's something I would like to attend one day and perhaps see what it's like, and hopefully one day present in one of these conferences. However, getting to the conference first as an attendee is more likely to be the best first step. And we are at our conclusion. For the conclusion, I found that brain development in the early years leads to benefits for the children as their cognitive develop strengthens because their physical brains are altered to understand language development in multiple perspectives. Indigenous teaching Indigenous benefit Indigenous. For me, I find this very crucial to keep in mind because myself as an Inuk, I would love to make sure I help my Inuit students grow and benefit from our education. Teaching methods like the communicative language learning is a great tool to develop language learning skills. Some practices can include role play, interview, group work, information gap, opinion sharing, and scavenger hunt. We are always evolving as humans, and it is time to find ways to help Inuit learn Inuktitut. Reclaiming our language will strengthen our culture, identity, and find ways of living in this ever-changing world. Final thoughts for this presentation. It is evident that success rates in Nunavut are significantly lower than the rest of Canada. Many aspects affect these success rates. As a professional, I want to help find ways I could help more Inuit succeed in education. We see why learning a language at an early age has its advantages. We are Inuit and have our own language. However, students are coming in more predominantly speaking in English. Helping a few students understand their own language is a great goal, and I hope that this project shows you that we do have resources that can help now to get to where we want to go. It's just a matter of fact of putting it together and presenting it as a tool that we can use for Inuit. This is also applicable for other Indigenous languages. It's just a matter of fact of putting together all of this information we have learned and finding ways to make it work in the classroom. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. Here's a list of my references. I hope you liked my presentation. Thank you very much. Appolina Makkigak.